Good morning and happy Tuesday. I hope everyone has had a great start to their week. I always appreciate everyone that takes a picture and posts on social media. So I saw Megan with her camera. So thank you, Megan, in Nashville. So look, today what we're going to share, I think, is the gap between where you are and where you want to be, right? And when you think about productivity, it really is a skill that's very outside of who we are. So let's talk about this for a second. And then our team will put up what your goal is. And so if you think about this as a salesperson, right, it's like one skill. But real estate is the only job where they'd ask you to do the same thing that in any corporation would be 5 different jobs. What other company do you know besides real estate where one person is the salesperson, the marketing person, the customer service person, the COO, the CEO, the human resource people? God knows what else we could add on to this. So like raise your hand, whoever feels like it could be overwhelming with the amount of things that come at them in a day, right? So it's kind of the analogy I use. It's like kind of playing dodgeball, but you never get to throw the ball back, right? Like that's kind of like what real estate is. And so today, essentially, we want to fill the gap. Like we've made a productivity system for you that we're excited to share. And so our team will put what's your goal of the session. And look, just as we share with you how to measure and improve performance daily, we're reading these comments every day and understanding, well, this is what you came for. This is what we gave you. Where is the gap, right? So the more you share, the more we can continue to grow. So you guys want to put that poll up? Let's see how many people turned their camera on and added their names. Page 2, page 3. Wow. Almost half. Oh, I see some more cameras going on. Remember, these are business meetings. You want to see and be seen. Make sure you update your name with your area so people can take advantage of that whole neuro association of knowing who you are, and you can start building relationships. All right, so give everyone a minute just to fill out the poll. All right, perfect. About half of you. All right, so let's get started. So look, when we think about the implementation session system that we created, I love triangles. So we think about 3 things, right? The first thing is understanding and prioritizing tasks. The second part is tracking and measuring your performance daily. And then the third part is executing your time blocks and the promises you make yourself. Remember, a business plan is an annual promise. A time block is a promise of time, right? And look, in nature, there's a quote here that I actually had to share with you guys. Let me pull this up real quick. Is that a time block in nature really is the most important thing, because if you can't own your time owns you. So if you think about this, right, very logically, a plan is a what, a schedule is when. It takes both a schedule and a plan to get things done. I could look at anyone's schedule and in 2 minutes or less, look at your plan and tell you if you're going to hit your goals or not. So here's your question to start this off, to kind of provoke your minds. If you look at your schedule today, raise your hand if your daily schedule reflects your annual goals. 1, kind of 1, 1-ish. It's interesting. No one's like confidently raising their hand, right? Which means that you're unsure. And the good news is that this is where you are today and that you have just only room for growth, right? So if you start thinking about this, what we want to do is understand first how to prioritize our tasks. And really prioritizing our tasks comes from one main thing that's a prerequisite: understanding what we're saying to our clients and the standards of communication we're setting in advance. Because look, as humans, our initial needs are certainty and comfort. And uncertainty and discomfort is generally where a lot of these things come from. All the phone calls, emails, text messages from your clients is because they don't know what's happening next. So as we start tracking and being mindful of what's coming in, the question becomes, how can I have a better sales process up front that solves for these things, right? If you track and measure what matters, you can make thoughtful improvements, right? And if you look at it, what happens is when you start implementing these things, your income goes up and the time in you put in goes down. And that gap is how you live more life. Everyone signed up for freedom, flexibility, and limitless income. And if you knew how you're living today, the question I always ask people is, would you still choose this career? For some, yes, some no. Right. And so in essence, I want you guys to play ownership and start taking control over what goes on in your business. Because if your client calls you and you feel like you have to answer the phone, there's no clause in your listing contract that says answer every call or the contract's terminated. A lot of this is self-discipline and choice. And when you don't do the right things every day, this is why you're like, oh, I got to answer the phone. It's my client, right? So when we start thinking about prioritizing tasks, there are three different areas that we need to focus on. There's important, urgent, and urgent important, right? If something is important, it needs to get done, but it has no specific time deadline associated to it. But it could feel urgent, right? Like if you have to review a marketing piece, or if you have to get something done where you have to have a conversation with somebody, it's not urgent. There's not a specific time deadline. There's no negative consequence, but it's important, right? So you have to understand how to categorize that. The second one is urgent. It's something that needs to be done, and there's a time deadline associated with it. So these are things that you want to get done by the end of the day. So an example is if there's a highest and best at 5 o'clock tomorrow, and your client's calling you at 9:30 in the morning while you're making your prospecting calls, is that something you really need to stop doing to talk to the person? No, you just let them know that you're going to speak with them at this time, set the boundaries or set the context of it, and just get it done before the end of the day. And then the third category is urgent important. There are things that are time sensitive that have to be almost done in real time or within an hour or 2 hours. And that's like if someone was going in your listing and doing a walkthrough and there's a busted pipe and those are closing in an hour. That's something you have to stop what you're doing for. So when we understand how to prioritize our tasks, then we can actually play offense through the work that we do. Does that make sense to everybody? So there's important, urgent, and urgent important. So like your asterisk item of the day is as these unplanned phone calls, emails, and text messages come in, start understanding how to cure the cause and not treat the symptom. Right? They're two very different things there. If you're curing the cause, you're going to go back and figure out what you said or what you didn't say to the people to effectively get the result that's driving them to that outcome. If you treat the symptom, you're just going to answer the phone call and give them what they want. As salespeople, we generally don't lay out clear parameters. And as a result, we just react to what our clients think, because essentially then they make the rules of the game. But if you go to any other business and service in the world, they lay out clearly how they work with you, clearly how they communicate with you, clearly when they can and can't, you can and can't reach them. And people like that. There is nothing in this business that can't be solved for. And remember, the market has changed where it's not like a house goes on the market and 30 seconds later it's gone. You know, when that happened, those buyer calls were urgent important, because if you didn't get to them in time, you essentially would lose the deal. Now, let's go to the 10-minute business plan. Now, how many people actually measure their performance every day? Probably not any of us, right? Because again, it's not something we're taught to do. Now, I realized a long time ago, many, many moons ago, when I was a broker, that like there are three things that I really needed to focus on. Was one, did I do something to make money today? Two, like what got in the way? And number three, what could I change differently? And I quickly learned that this was a way every single day to get better, right? And here's my bold claim of the day. There is nothing in your life, nothing, that if you use this system can't be changed in the next 3 weeks. Nothing. Right? So if you start thinking about it, what's the first question you want to ask yourself? What income producing activities did I do today? Now, here's the thing. People are like, oh, I went on a listing pitch, not income producing. I set up collections for my clients, not income producing. I wrote offers for my clients, not income producing. Remember, there is a future self 3 to 4 months from now that's counting on you to create new business. And if you've ever had a month where you didn't make money, it's because 3 or 4 months ago you didn't do your job. So income producing activities are activities that create new business that doesn't exist today, like calling your past clients in Sphere, connecting with other Compass agents to build relationships, writing handwritten notes. Those are a few different ways that can generate new activity. Now think about it. The numbers work in your favor. 5 calls a day is 25 calls a week, 100 calls a month, 10 months out of the year, which gives you plenty of time off and emergencies to pop up. That's 1,000 conversations. At a 1% conversion rate, which is the same thing as sending direct mail to strangers, it's 10 deals. 3 agent outreaches a day, 3 a day, 15 a week, 60 a month, 600 a year. It's, by the way, it's 600 new agents who know who you are. 1% conversion, there's another 6 deals. Now you go to 2 handwritten notes a day, 10 a week, 40 a month, 400 over the course of the year, another 1%. That's 20 transactions by doing income producing activities every day. And this is like talking to people you know with very comfortable conversations. When we get to the data sheet, you'll see how important this is when you realize 80 to 90% of your business, generally for most Compass agents, comes from past clients and centers of influence. Now, distractions. This is my favorite one. Your brain is like an ocean. And if you understand how behavioral psychology works, you could start using the way that your brain works in your favor, right? So once you see like a red car somewhere, say you see like a red Porsche, now you see the car everywhere. Our brains are trained for like pattern recognition. Once we see something, we start looking for it. Well, it works the same way with distractions. You know, at the end of the day, when you sit down somewhere, it's like 6, 7 o'clock, you want to go home, you want to eat dinner, you want to see your family, you want to see friends, you want to do anything else besides work, and you still have this whole to-do list that you're like super excited to do in the morning. You're just like, what happened? And then in that moment right there, you'll go through every single thing that went wrong. I took this call, this client took me off on a tangent, I went on Instagram and I got distracted. That's when all of these things come up, right? So what you really want to focus on is identifying those distractions. Because remember, if you measure what matters, when performance is measured, performance can grow. And the third one is the shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? What am I going to do differently tomorrow? What am I going to do differently tomorrow? Because at the end of the day, you'll all know what you're going to do differently. But what happens is we only just think about these things. We don't write about it. There's no plan in it. There's no place to review it, and there's no system in place. So therefore, these thoughts just float in our head, and everyone's stuck with the same challenges year after year after year. So how do we effectively use this? Number one, at the end of every day, you time block 10 minutes to do this. Number two, at the beginning of every day, you're training your brain to look for this stuff. If you did nothing to make new income, are you 100% more likely to follow the time block today? Absolutely. You know, if you understand what distractions you're looking for, when they come up, you're going to snap like, wait, that happens. And now I have a system to deal with it because this is what I'm going to do differently, right? So every distraction has a solution. So literally your brain is being trained to say problem, solution, earn more money, right? Like it's just consistent. And it becomes easy because every single day you're growing. Because every day there's no person, me exempt, I'm not exempt, my team's not exempt, Robert's not exempt, no one's exempt. Everyone has things that get in the way, right? And it's like the difference between an objection and a condition. Like an objection is like, it's raining, I don't feel like running. A condition is like, I'm in a wheelchair, I can't run. Right? So how many of your distractions are conditions versus objections? So people are like, oh my God, my kids got in the way. Well, you procreated children. They're part of your life. Like that's not something that's like a distraction. That's your reality. So that just says I need to be more purposeful with what I'm doing. So that's a 10-minute business plan. Now, let's go into time blocking. Now, this is the most important part. Now, for the people that are doing the 10-minute business plan, please do it 7 days a week. Do not skip the weekends. And if you have a family, it's like instead of what income producing activities, it's like what memories and experiences did I proactively create with my children? Or did I create with my spouse? Did I create with my partner, right? What distractions got in the way and what will I do differently next weekend? Make it about your life. This works everywhere. And when you start realizing that, you're going to be more connected, you're going to be more present, you're going to be more fulfilled, you're going to get more out of the day. Pretty simple stuff, right? This is not rocket science or anything complicated, but I want you guys to become more self-aware of how your brains work, how to utilize behavioral psychology, how to really understand that there's simple things that you can do every day that can make massive impact. One of my favorite quotes are small actions done consistently produce oversized results. And if we look at it, we're all playing home run ball. No, we just need to hit a bunch of signals and get momentum and be in rhythm and routine and consistency. Discipline, consistency, and patience. Those are the 3 keys to hitting any goal. So time blocks every day. You want to put 10 minutes at the end of your business day and 10 minutes in the beginning before you start your day. And the nice part about having the 10-minute business plan in here is that it gives you a clear end to your day, right? Because a lot of us could sit in the office, play in our inbox, go on compass.com, and you just be sitting there forever. You just get lost. This clearly defines your day. Now, the second one is the 5-3-2 prospecting. And that's what I shared with you before. 5 client calls, 3 Compass agent outreaches, and 2 handwritten notes. We suggest you do that 1 hour a day, 5 times a week. Live coaching, you've time blocked for these 2 sessions 2 times a week. Coaching implementation. If you're not taking time to implement what you learned, like, what are you doing? I call it the 170-30 rule, and time block for the expert mentor sessions that you'd like to join. Correct. People think going to a coaching session is 100% of the work. Really, it's only 70. And the 30% where you gain and grow your business and get all the benefits you signed up for come from that 30% after the session. That's where all the real money is. Role playing. Okay, there are probably a few hardcore sales people here that probably like this. But for the most of us, do we like sales conversations? Probably not, right? As an industry, we have failed miserably in this area. It's a conversation business, right? So if you don't know how to meet people where they are, ask great questions, be a great active listener, and understand what's above somebody's iceberg, right? Like the things they're telling you and sharing with you, and the things underneath their iceberg, their motivations, their expectations, their disappointments and concerns for what they're doing, then where's that really going to get you? You know, when we do sales training, we'll do that 30-second clock thing where you realize 30 seconds in silence is an eternity. Have you ever heard a realtor run-on sentence? It's crazy. So that is role playing. So, you know, reach out to people, pick one skill a quarter to really work on. And I always look at this for the people that have kids. Like, imagine your kid was coming home, failing the same test year after year. Well, they're just questions on a test. And when they have objections, those are questions too. Sharing the market in a meaningful way is a question. You know, if you practice, someone says, I don't want to overpay for a home. The interest rates are high and prices are so inflated. Great. Let's look at the market through the eyes of your goals and expectations and see if it makes sense for you to buy a home. That's very different than the real estate lecture of, well, the market's here. And this is like, people don't want to hear that. Like, your job as a great salesperson is asking people great questions to walk them through the process to get them to the conclusion you want them to be on and it to be their idea. So role playing is very important. All right, so let's go into our post-action steps, right? So here's our recap. Effectively, we need to prioritize our tasks. And it's understanding and starting to track what's important, what's urgent, important, and knowing when to stop and when not to stop, right? And we're also going to look at, based on tracking these conversations, how we can be more effective in the sales process. That's really important. Number 2, the 10-minute business plan. There's one thing you do out of this, I would do that. It's 20 minutes a day. And it could be done in less if you're really paying attention. You know, that's understanding that every day you have 3 responsibilities. Understanding what income producing activities, things you did to create new business you don't have today through active outreach. Number 2 is tracking your distractions so you know where to improve. And 3, understanding where and how to improve. Right? You put those 3 things together, once at the end of the day, once in the beginning of the next day, you'll continue to grow. And you'll be surprised at how much more productive you could be with doing less work. The goal is not to give you more work. And the third part is pick the time blocks that matter to you. Those are the ones that we suggest are most important. It's only a few hours a week of work. And if you tell me you don't have time for all this, just go on Instagram or go on your screen time. You could find time that you're playing on your phone. The average person uses Instagram a minimum of 2 to 3 hours a day. And there's no way you can convince me that social media is more important than this. It's not happening. So what are your action steps? Start tracking your tasks and understand how to prioritize them. set up time blocks for the areas you want to focus on that are most important to you, complete the 10-minute business plan, and sign up for an accountability partner if you need one. All right, now we're going to open up the implementation session, implementation system. Now, if you don't have this and you're not a techie, don't worry about it. We're creating an actual paper form that will be in the end of week email recap that we send out, where you can literally print it and fill it out. So let me walk you through how to do this if you're doing it today. And by the way, have your sheet pulled up prior to coming into class. So look, we are here, time blocking prioritization, right? The content and deliverable is the 10-minute business plan as well as these notes. Now, takeaway, this is a specific action that you're going to take. What do you want to do as a result of this session? Now, when you're writing in here, you're going to want to put this in a context. If you looked at it a month, 2 months, 3 months from now, you know what to do. The next area is priority. Is it high? Yep.
Hey, it's Tiff. I think you're screen sharing the wrong tab because we're still seeing the dashboard.
Oops. There we go. Was that the right one now?
Yep, there you go. That's perfect.
All right, perfect. So in the takeaways, make sure you write this as if you're going back to it and that it will make sense to you. Priority. Is it high, medium, low? It has nothing to do with your business or not available, not applicable now. Pick the priority. And here's the most important part. I want us all to take the next 5 minutes and actually time block this into our calendar. Put the blocks in that you want to do. And I want you guys to do this on the call or immediately after, because the goal of this is to set up the time to do the things you want. And even if it's 3 months from now, it doesn't matter. It just matters that it gets done. And then you'll pick the time block date, and then you'll put an accountability date. Like, when are you going to get started? And then when did you actually get started and complete the task? And this way you can start tracking how efficient you are in doing what you said you're going to do, essentially keeping the promise to yourself. So give everyone 2 minutes to do that. This is like 2 minutes of awkward silence, right? It's now think about how much we talk on some of these appointments. So look, I'll leave you guys all with this. This is, I would say, one of the most essential core skills that I see top producing agents have. And if you own your time, you own your life. And the goal of this is to be business owners. It's not like this business was not created to just be glued to this device all day and every time it rings, jumps. It's not like, you know, it's like Pavlov's conditioning theory. We're conditioned just to be on 24/7, and it's just not how things work. And you have to understand the difference of having to answer your phone and wanting to answer your phone. And I see real commitment. I see people with babies and children here, and I love it. So look, at the end of the day, I hope you guys make sure you put the time blocks here. If you didn't, when you get off the call, make sure to write your calendar and pick that. The action steps are laid out. We have an implementation system, and Tiff will stay on for a minute or two if anyone has questions about the sheet and copying it and where to find it and everything else. So she'll go through that with everybody. Look, as always, with love in my heart, I love you all. I see a bright future ahead of all of you. Just keep the promises you make to yourself. They're the most important ones. And look at where you are today as a barometer of how much farther you can go. Because once you start utilizing these implementation systems and prioritizing tasks, the only place to go is up. Because now you're making smart choices, you're honoring your time blocks and your promises to yourself, and you're improving your performance every day. And you'll get in the simple habit of earning more money because you're doing something in that direction every day. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's session. Make sure to check out our expert mentors this week, and I'll see you all next week. And look out for our recap email that has everything in it. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Chirag. I know some of you are headed to our webinar with Stephen Littman after this. You guys are welcome to hop off and go join that. If you want to join, we're happy to also put a link in the chat for you to join. He's going over Prospecting 101. It's also in the platform in your events calendar. If someone on my team can pop that link, actually, I think I have it handy. So let me just put that here. I got this. Okay, so if you do want to join a prospecting webinar with Stephen Littman, there is the link to join. It starts right now. If you want to know how to download the sheet, where to find it in the platform, I'm going to go over that right now. If you guys have specific questions, need support, again, as always, please email csccommunity@Chirag Shah Coaching. But let me go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully I do this right. Okay, can I get a few thumbs up if you guys can see my screen? Okay, cool. Thank you, Shelly. Awesome. So this is my version of the platform. Anytime you're in here, keep in mind I have admin access, so mine might look a little bit different than yours, but you guys should all have generally the same menu items. So anytime we reference something is in the platform, if it's a resource, it'll live in one of two places. So the first place is in the session itself. So here we are, the 12:30 Eastern time blocking. Scroll down, here's your related resources. So this is probably the most familiar way if you're already looking at the calendar in this view. And then you also have, you can click into it and you'll be able to make a copy. So don't worry about working in someone else's doc. We'll always make sure you guys make a copy. And you guys will have what Chirag was going over today. So this is sort of his track for the day, and we're going to be making one of these for each day. If you're looking for the implementation worksheet that we went over yesterday, you can always toggle to past events. And that was getting the most out of coaching. And we have our implementation worksheet here. So that's the first place that you can go to find stuff. If you're like, oh, that was Monday session, it might be easier for you guys to go into the platform, find the session and look for the resources there. If you know what something's called, we also just have the full resource library. Again, mine will look different than yours because I see everything, but you guys should all have the all members playbook folder. If you're a team leader, you should also have this folder. And if you don't see that and you are a team leader and you paid for the team playbook, email my team so we can make sure your access is right. But you'll click into all members and you'll notice that these are these different resources that we have. They're in both places. So again, if you know what it's called, you can go here. All of the things that we will upload will be in both places. So then let's go over the implementation worksheet because I know some people had some questions on that. My biggest tip, and Chirag mentioned this, is don't try and force yourself into Google Sheets if you're not a Google Sheets person. Unfortunately, it doesn't download nicely into Excel. So I'll make a PDF that you guys can print for those of you who are having trouble and want to do it the old-fashioned way. So once you make a copy, this is your copy. So you should be able to edit all of this stuff. Row A here is going to be pre-populated. Hold on, let me make sure my screen's sharing properly. Okay, great. Row A here will be pre-populated to be all of the session topics. Now, he mentioned that these may change. Chirag may change what he's talking about any given day just to, make sure he's focused on your guys' feedback or something crazy happens in the market. So you guys can change these if the session topics change, and you will know of those changes ahead of time. But they're there now so that you at least have an idea of what we're talking about each day, along with the date. So what he is advising at the end of each call for the last few minutes is to type in your given takeaways or action items. You can select from the drop down for the different priorities as well as statuses. Once you guys start populating this, then you can start to look at your dashboard. The dashboard's not going to make a lot of sense right now because there's really nothing populated in there. This is going to pull from the priorities, the statuses, and all that good stuff to give you that holistic view. But really, at the end of these days, you'll be on this tab here at the bottom, My Coaching Implementation Tracker. Again, if it's something that you're not going to implement, we do recommend you still write about it and just mark it as NA or NAN. If you forget what those are, there's a little key on this front page here as well. Thumbs up if that hopefully makes sense and helps you out a little bit. Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Laura. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. And Herson, if you're still here, do you mind opening up the chat? I'm going to stick around and see if anyone has any final questions before I too hop to the webinar. All right, awesome. If you guys have questions, pop them in the chat and I'm happy to stick around for another few minutes and give you guys any answers that you need. If not, have a wonderful rest of your day. Yes, the guest speaker session is recorded. Stephen's session will be recorded and you'll find it in your platform. You can filter for free Compass webinars, and that's where those sort of non-playbook webinars will live. Great question. If your column A is not populated, go ahead and go back to the platform and make a new copy. There should be no reason why it's not populating. The original document has it, so it might just be something got deleted on the way over, but try again to repopulate. If not, email my team, Janet, CSC community at Chirag Shah Coaching, and we're happy to send you your own copy as well. For anyone that can't get on the website, if you're having login issues, my team will have to troubleshoot that directly by looking into the system. So again, I apologize. I'm always sending you to CSC community, but please email them and they'll get you going. So Joan, CSC community, it's a mouthful, at ChiragShahCoaching.com. We really tried to get at CSC.com, but it was taken. So we have this very, very long email address, but that's okay. Awesome. Any other questions, you guys? Awesome. Glad you were able to reach out to them. Oh, Stephanie, do we need to add lines to create multiple action items? Oh, that's a great question. I will share my screen and it's sort of up to you. Let me show you how I would do it. So there's sort of two ways that you can add multiple action items. It's going to depend on how you want it to look in your dashboard. So this is pulling from all of these. So as long as you have the date set, it'll pull in properly. So you're welcome to right click, insert a row below. You can always drag to duplicate any language from above, and you're welcome to do it that way. And you just kind of copy in all the dates and things like that. But another way, if you want it to just all be in one row, whenever you type, so hello, if you hold down the control button on your keyboard and press return, it makes a nice new line within the cell. The one thing about Excel is if you don't hold control, if I press return, it just goes into the next cell. So that's some Google Sheets 201, a little bit past 101, but it's up to you. So you can either insert a new row, again, just make sure to fill out everything that would be missing, or you can just use control return within the cell and add different lines that way. It's up to you. You can also just make it a lot bigger too. If you're feeling like there's not enough space to read everything, just drag it around and make it work for you. Hopefully that was helpful, Stephanie. Awesome. Only a few people left. Any last questions before we call it a day? All right. See you all next week. I highly recommend you guys join a few expert mentor sessions this week. They're all super excited to meet you. Again, those are on your platform, and we'll see you guys there. Have a good one. Bye.